Absolutely. Yeah, weird time of the day.
Yeah, that's a good way to start off the review, but that's all right. Maybe you can edit this one, Kirklin. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the midnight reviews for the East Coast people. Because on Pacific, we are reviewing Miss Marvel right now. As we've said before, right now we're reviewing Obi-Wan, and then Miss Marvel will be the next day. So Obi-Wan's the midnight slot. This one we're going to talk about in 3 weeks. If we want to change it or not, we'll kind of make a group decision. And then in summer, it's going to be the same way where, because She-Hulk's first She-Hulk will be at midnight, but the Andor will be at the day, and I'll kind of switch off and off. But because Disney has decided, no, we're not going to separate the days. We're all going to release them on one day. And I would love to talk to them about that, but that's for another day, because what we are here to talk about is Miss Marvel. It is I don't even want to guess. I was going to pretend I had stats. It's another MCU. I think it's like the 35th project overall or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, so tons of stuff and everything like that. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff popping off. Thank you to everyone that listened today between the newscast and it's only 8 days of the month, the biggest day of the month already. So thank you for that. And I think I said this, I got to make a social media post, but it is a big thank you to everyone that listened last month because it's our most downloaded month ever, which is always great to have that. I always say that, talk about Marvel, like we had Endgame and that month was like reign supreme for like a whole year and a half before like we ever broke those stats again. And it's been nice to past few years, or past few months to keep doing it. So thank you very much. But if you like what we're doing, like I said, we reviewed Obi-Wan, me, and Kirkland. That was actually pretty fun. Just us two had lots to talk about. We have Summer Games Fest is coming up. It happens tomorrow, and then me and Dylan will be dropping our review for Friday. We're recording it Thursday night, so for you Pacific people, look up for the YouTube. But we got that and the Xbox Game Showcase on Sunday. Taylor's going to join us for that. Kirk, are you joining us for that, or are you away Sunday for the showcase?
I think I'm away that one.
Away? Okay,
Yeah.
so he's away.
Low percent chance.
But you know what he's not away for? The next masterpiece on deck, Jurassic World Dominion, is popping off. That's coming out tomorrow as well. So we'll be reviewing that Friday. I got an episode of The Boys. So tons of stuff and 2 gaming-related things as far as live streaming our events. We got the GeekVerse Retaliation event, the team titles match this Friday at 5 p.m. PST, and then the Strikers Cup. There's so much going on, it just hasn't dawned on me that Strikers is out in just a few days, 48 hours. It's crazy. I've waited so long, and here we are. We're so close. So
Yeah, I'll probably go
What a weird
live at like
feeling.
9 p.m. tomorrow night. So
yeah,
maybe 24 hours.
Ooh.
yeah. I haven't decided if I'm getting I feel like I still get physical stuff with Switch just because I don't want to use that hard drive. Because I feel like it can go up pretty quick, but. I haven't decided if, but no, we'll be doing this. We'll be doing the Games Fest. I'll just wait to get physical. I want that box. I want that Strikers
That's
box.
fair. Yeah.
It's a long time coming. So. It's a long time coming, Miss Marvel, but we're not there yet because you gotta go down below. GeekVerse.ca has everything: our audio, our Discord, our video, how to subscribe, our podcast network, all our separate podcast feeds. We have 5 of them. Check them out. If you like everything we do, just subscribe to GeekVerse. If you want specific things like side quests, the reviews, the news, it's all there. Patreon, go over there. Ad-free, exclusive, early episodes. The more you support us, the more you get back as far as content. And a big shout out to the Patreon producers at our highest tier, Phase 4 tier, to Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Carl Ritchie, and Smalley Biggs. That just got created this month. So a big thank you to everyone on there, but a big thank you to the producer tier. We really appreciate it. And yeah, Manscaped.ca, 20% off, free shipping. Everything you need to know about us is down below. The podcast, not us. We'll do a tell interview at some point, but let's get into it. As usual, non-spoilers. So luckily, we are recording these a little bit later, but still, maybe you haven't seen it. Maybe you're wondering, do I watch everything MCU? Should I check this out? So Dilmas, non-spoiler. Should people be checking out Miss Marvel?
Yeah, I guess to give like a very quick backstory, I don't really have much history with the character. Really, my only experience is from Marvel's Avengers, the game, and Marvel Ultimate Alliance as well. She's in there. So not a lot of story content. I mean, she is in Marvel's Avengers a good amount, I suppose, in that a similar sort of way, I guess. But truthfully, this is kind of my introduction to the character in a big way. And I got to say, I loved this episode. I thought this was a fantastic first episode. Great kickoff to the show. I'm very excited for this. We talk a lot about how these different MCU projects, they, whether it's getting different teams in there, different directors, things like this, like they do get their own feel, but there is still this sameness to them where they feel like they're all part of the same brand. And I truly feel like this does not feel like an MCU thing. And it's weird to say because there's all sorts of references to all these characters from this world. But in terms of the tone of it, in terms of the cinematography and the style, for me, this show is just so stylish so far, and I'm loving that. part of it. So and then some other ways that I won't say for non-spoiler reasons, but just some other ways that I feel like it really differentiates itself from the what we'll say formula of the MCU stuff, which obviously I love because I'm here on the 36th project and I've seen all of them except for Eternals at this point. So I'm obviously a big fan. I'll get to Eternals at some point, just haven't got
Some
to it
point, yeah.
yet. But yeah, I love this. I think everyone should check this out. I don't know. I think this is just good for everyone, like all ages probably. MCU fan or not. Like maybe if you're not, I don't know, it might be a bit strange to jump into this one, but I don't think you'd be listening to this review if you weren't an MCU fan. So I think everyone should be checking this one out for sure.
Yeah, I'll go next because I'm not negative. I'm just not as positive as you are on it, but it's exactly what I expected, right? I expected it to kind of be. Luckily, I feel like it's not as kiddie as I thought it might be. I thought it was gonna be a lot more kiddier, and I like that they're kind of. It is a coming age as a young adult, but it feels like it is that type of Boy Meets World Lizzie McGuire era, but it's like better acting, better budget, stuff like that, and it's in the MCU, so I like that a lot. What I was mostly looking forward to this show because I looked at the previews and went, okay, this show looks like it could be kind of Disney Channel ish with kind of a gooder, a higher level, so. What I would want to know is, okay, I don't even know how to pronounce her name. It's Amon Villani, I think it is, but either way, I know Amon is the way you would say it, but the actress that plays Miss Marvel, for her, I was looking at it, go, okay, she's going to be in the Marvels, and she's going to be probably a staple of the MCU, so it's pretty key to get this down, and lots of the trailers I'd seen was just nothing to convince me that she was good or bad, just nothing really, and man, she knocks it out of the park. Like, the good thing is Marvel's always been great at their casting, so I never worry that much when it happens. There's the occasional casting where I go, I don't know about this. This is an unproven commodity. I think she had like one project before and it was something very tiny. Like, she's pretty much a new actress, and they probably cast or they auditioned thousands, hundreds of girls for this. And if whatever time it took, they absolutely did this right. Because we talked about this before. There's a lot of younger kid actors that today, it's not like back in the day where they're kind of, all right. But she is so charismatic. But every scene, whether it's an emotional scene, whether it's a funny scene, whether it's a scene where she's kind of getting picked on a little bit, whether it is a kind of over the top scene, she's doing that all well, like even more so than I thought she was going to do, because like I said, the previews just didn't really show much of her like acting quality, and I heard a lot of that before going in the show, like, oh, Amon's great, all this stuff, but I want to see it for myself, because at the same time I feel like people want to be nice to the kid, right? You never want to come in, like people always talk about what happened to Jake Lloyd in Phantom Menace, where he just got railroaded, like this kid is Anakin is awful and stuff like people try not to do that nowadays, so it's like, okay, it's people just kind of blowing smoke, and no, she's fantastic. So now this show, it can kind of be whatever it wants. I'm just excited for when I see her mix it up with Carol Danvers, with Peter Parker, stuff like that, So I think they have a good aura of the world. I think for me, it's a show similar to when the CW DC show started, where there was Flash, where I watched every night, like weekly. Don't anymore because it's a trash pile. But like what happened was eventually there's other shows where it's like, okay, I like them, but I could let a couple episodes, pile up. I could catch this later. I'm going to probably watch maybe next week at midnight or after Obi-Wan, because that's what I did last night. But I'm kind of leaning towards this show that I could get to eventually, aka like before we review it. But I didn't feel like, oh man, I can't wait for next week. I'm like Dylan, actually, where the only stuff I've read of Miss Marvel actually is just her in team-ups. I've never actually picked up the solo comic book. I read there was a big run of all new Marvel, and she was an Avenger, and that was a really great run because the roster's cool. It's like her, Mighty Jane, Sam's Cap, Miles Morales is Spider-Man, Iron Man. It's a really cool, like random thrown together team, Nova and stuff, which is kind of funny because these are characters that look like they could be the Avengers now. So, but yeah, I think it's a fine show. I think it's somewhere in the middle of, it's not too adulty like a book smart. Like, of course it wouldn't be that, but I just mean like, so you don't have that part. And the other thing where I feel like I want it to be almost just a bit weirder is we got Turning Red earlier this year, and I feel like it's very similar. Like with the Avengers Con, there's even one line where, I'm not going to spoil it too much, but there's some character says, oh, do you do birthday parties? It felt exactly like that, where Turning Red to me was like much more experimental and much more just very unique. This feels like a show I've seen of quite a few times, just done better. So I like it. It's good. It's checking all the boxes. I would say it's a good show. It's a passable show. I'm excited to see where we go in the stakes of it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Miss Marvel so far. So Kirkland Batzer.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys were saying. I think, like overall, I think
Classic
it
Kirkland, right in the middle.
overall, I think it went above my expectations, which is obviously, nothing you'd complain about on a show like this. Is first episode. Completely agree with you on like the lead. I think she's so awesome, like very charismatic, and out of everything that happened in this episode, I think like the biggest takeaway is I'm confident that like I'm actually gonna like this character going forward.
Mhm.
And I definitely. Pardon me. I definitely think she'll be one that is sticking around, for a while. So it's good to have a character like that you like.
She's kind of aging out of the role. I don't know. She might be
Yeah.
a bit too old for Miss
Recast.
Marvel.
They'll de-age her going forward.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We really need you to look like we joke about that, but remember they like Kirkland. I guess you kind of saw it, but remember Dylan, they did that in It Chapter 2. We actually got like kids de-aged to look like younger kids. We live in that world where kids that were 14, like, yeah, you gotta look more like 10, so we're gonna de-age you. It's just like
Yeah.
it's funny times.
It's very funny times. I think the humor, like, it pretty much worked for me like the whole way through. I knew I was gonna have a good time when like the first 5 minutes of this episode, like I was just grinning ear to ear, and like everything was working for me. The music, the really interesting like animation things thrown into like certain scenes. I won't. I don't even think it's really a spoiler, but it's just
I think
like
they're in the
it's
trailers. I think they're in the
oh,
trailers. So you're
okay.
safe.
It's just interesting having it in the background, but like it doesn't it's not taking away from the show like at all. Like it's not too distracting. I think it just like seems like just fits together really nicely. I almost think of like Spider-Verse, how like it had stuff like that
Mm.
in that movie. So all that stuff is really fun, and yeah, all in all, I'm really excited going forward with the show. And I agree with you, Travis. I'm curious to see what the stakes are like on the highest end of it, because I think out of some of the other pilot episodes that we've seen from like Disney Plus Marvel shows, this one it really didn't have like that much like threat going on other than I love your comparison to like the turning red thing, because that was exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it. I guess we can just talk specifics of that in spoiler section, but all in all, I agree with Dylan. I think I recommend this to basically everyone. Because yeah, they didn't make it too kiddie, which is something maybe I thought I would be getting some of those moments, but no, it was good.
I'm curious to see not even just the premiere, but as that goes on to see, what is the tone, how it stays like adult versus kid. But if it is still, it's not so kiddie, but if it's still adult enough to get, obviously you got your MCU people, but I wonder if like when people watch this that are maybe a bit older that don't have kids or something, are they going to be really into this? That's what will be the big litmus test to see months later. Because I don't know how it's going to do premiere wise. I watched it because I watched it once and I watched it again with the girls to make sure. Logan is like not so much because she's only 2, so she doesn't really care that much about the Avengers Con and everything like that. But Gwen watched the full thing. I can tell like that audience, that fan base. Like, I agree with you guys that I'd recommend it to pretty much any age, but I think it's going to be really good for that. So the same way we talk about how you need different genres and stuff, she enjoyed the whole thing, and there's not even that much action in it. Because I was wondering, because there's some stuff where like Moon Knight she was liking, but then when they just went on runs of 30 minutes of dialogue, she was out. She's like, okay, I don't need this. Is not my thing. Where WandaVision was so wacky, same thing. She watched the whole thing and like that. So there's lots of times where the character was just talking, but again, because the character is looking like a young girl, that's gonna help and everything like that. And I wanted to bring this up because why you should go join the Discord. SBub says peak MCU content. Now he said something that I thought was maybe a little controversial, but maybe people agree. He said this is easily the best Disney Plus pilot. Would you guys agree with that? And Dylan, I'll throw it at you because you said you absolutely loved the episode. So think about the pilots of like Loki, Falcon, Moon Knight, like the first episode, like your first pressure show. I know it's probably a bit different because some of those I know you probably watched like together, but as a strong first impression, do you think this is the strongest one so far?
Yeah, honestly, it is harder for me to differentiate because it really was just with Moon Knight when I hopped onto the weekly episodes with you guys. So it's harder for me to like pick those apart. Yeah, I think Moon Knight, if we look at that one, the CGI part in the first episode like brings it down probably, and I also, in hindsight, it also maybe brings it down. I can't really remember exactly what happens in the WandaVision first episode opposed to like the second and third episode.
Yeah. The first episode is just almost purely them in the TV show. Like they don't really reveal anything. So yeah.
I mean, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think that's a great start. Maybe Loki though. Like, is Loki? I think after the first episode, I was like, I need to watch the second episode right away. Like, this is got me intrigued. So I'd say maybe would give it to Loki at the moment. But we'll see about that.
Yeah, I'd probably go Loki then WandaVision because WandaVision was just like I was just so fucking like, man, this is crazy. They're doing this. Loki still nothing has topped for me the scene where Loki watches his whole like, and it's a cheat because Loki's been there for so long. But when he watches his whole life, and it's like he literally sees the end of his life in front of his eyes, and like what a character shift that was. And no way could Miss Marvel compete like that for me because like she's a new character. But I agree.
I can
probably.
see where he's coming from though. Like I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's a total. That's not a hot take. I don't think from S-Bubs. Like I think that's a totally valid opinion for sure.
Kirklin, where are you as far as a starter?
Yeah, I don't think that's a controversial statement like at all. It's
Wow.
kind of tough because like WandaVision had the 2 episodes, so I kind
True,
of just
yeah.
attribute
Oh,
that
did it?
to
Okay.
being like a combined pilot. So if I had to choose, I would take that option because I just love those first 2 episodes.
Only the
but
first hour. Kirk.
yeah, the
Don't-
first. But like again, like I think this was a stellar first episode, so I think it did a really good job of just introducing the character and what the show's gonna be. So I don't know. I could make an argument maybe that this is the best one. Loki was phenomenal though as well. I would maybe put Loki above it.
There you go. Fanboy Clay says he's pretty much the same thing. Wanda, Loki, Miss Marvel. You're standing on the fence there, Clay. You know, you got to pick one.
Yeah,
But
it'll be fun to revisit that question in a couple of years when we have like a lot more to pick. What was the first What If episode? What was that?
Captain Carter, that one.
That's pretty good too. I think I'd give it the live action ones. Maybe get a bit of a
Yeah.
jump for me personally.
And I think I'm with you too, where I think if Moon Knight ended better, I would have been higher on it because I thought the
Yeah.
first episode was pretty good for Moon Knight, like a really good setup. But
And
now
if it weren't
looking
for those
back, on it,
damn logs, you know.
those damn logs. Hopefully, she doesn't fright any logs in this, you know. But
well, she already kind of. Well, I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but a log does fall on her from the tree. So.
yeah, let's get into
But
that because
I don't know if that was CGI though. That was like a styrofoam.
that
log,
looked
so-
very, yeah, that looked very. Hey, what do we have in the back of the set of the Disney
Yeah.
crew here? So, yeah. So if you haven't seen, it, we're gonna jump into spoilers. So we're gonna take a break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So yeah, that log. So I don't know where to start from, but I will say like a thing that I really like was the whole we'd seen in the trailers is like Avengers Con and everything like that, which is funny because you talked about like your experience, Dylan, of Miss Marvel. That's like identical how the game starts, right? You're Miss Marvel and you're going to like an Avengers. It's A Day, right? A Day is what it is.
that one's
there.
like a lot more plain, whereas this
Yeah.
was like very bombastic and definitely had the convention feel. Yeah.
But yeah, that log, man, that was I liked that. It was bold that for her to literally jump out of her window and that tree to break, and that
She
could
was
have been
so
the end of
hyped
it.
that
Yeah.
it like seemed believable. Like, and also she's a teenager. Like that's something she would do, I guess.
Now I wanted to ask you guys because this was like a big point of contention going through, and I have always said this truthfully is like I didn't care as much as so her powers have changed, right? The origin of them, the type of powers. I didn't care as much as because like I like Miss Marvel quite a bit, but she's not like a top 10 or top 20. But I understand there's always been this debate of Feige and company said, well, we changed it because the story dictated this being a bit better. Because if you don't know in the comic books and don't know this from the game, where like there's the Terrigen mist from the Inhumans that sprays and that makes her powers. Clearly, they're not really doing any of that right now. So this was this idea. So I'm still like on the fence of like I'm not on either side. I'm waiting to get more of the story because I thought I was like a little cheesy and clunky of like, oh, they're just in her closet just somewhere and stuff like that. Like, or I guess, sorry, her grandma sent them and stuff like that. So I thought, oh, this is kind of an easy way to get there. But I'm waiting to get to more. So for what we saw the little bit, it looks good. I get why they're doing this to kind of pair her with Captain Marvel and Monica, who like have similar power sets. So I still remain very much in the middle of that, but I'm not sure. Again, you guys are the same thing. You don't have much of the source material, but how do you feel about them changing this and now kind of seeing the route of, you know, it seems like it might be a family heirloom that gives her these powers.
What do you think, Kirk?
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it at all. I really don't even know like how she got in the comics at all, so that I think that helps a lot. And I think it's a new enough character that there's going to be a lot of people like me in that camp that aren't affected by like them changing her origin on how she got her powers or anything like that. Because for me, it worked. There was a quick moment that when she first put on the bracelet and like you kind of see the effects of her getting her powers, she like falls back and you see like a bunch of people like around her, and I'm curious if that is like something in regards to like
that was
her
a choice.
ancestors
Yeah.
or Because
dark
it'll
dimension.
remind me of like Black Panther, when he like sees like the different Black Panthers and like it's a similar heirloom type thing with that power. So I
If she sees her relatives, then it is really just turning red. It's just turning red. Like they're just
oh yeah,
caught in the whole thing. Yeah.
which I love Turning Red.
Yep.
I don't know if
Great
that would
movie.
be a major con, but yeah, no, I really liked it, and it was I think going forward, I'm excited to find out just the whole deal with this heirloom because clearly someone like sent it and like what's that story? So
Well, and that's what I was gonna say. Where Espo says, "I don't care about the power change, but I can see why people are be upset because I think the story would pretty much be the same." Well, and that it's tough because that's where I
We're
don't
one
think it's gonna be
episode
the same.
in. I mean,
Yeah,
you know.
and I actually don't think it's gonna be the same because like what Kirklin talked about, that flipping of seeing different people. The Terrigen Mist in the comics was like she just happened to be their accident. This like is left in her family, could be ancestry, stuff like that. So, and I get it because I'm the same guy that's saying I'm in the middle of the fence, but at the same point, you can go back to the Moon Knight reviews where I don't think I was salty, but I was always a little disappointed. It's like, oh man, they really changed up from the comic book. So I get that because people always point that like, oh, what if what if Peter Parker wasn't a spider? What if he was a butterfly guy? You're like, oh, but he's still Peter Parker and he's still this, but he's Butterfly Man. You go, oh well, so you had the same case where there's still a lot of pushback against, hey, and I think the other pushback for this is people. Feige says these comics and other people, but lots of other people worry they just change that because they have Mr. Fantastic coming and they didn't want too stretchy characters.
Yeah, even though I feel like they have a different vibe to them, but
Yeah.
when I first saw I saw a little bit of that discourse, and I like immediately muted it. I'm like, this is the most like. Wait until the show comes out and you've seen it before you. Like, I get it if you're really attached to those powers and you need to see them like that, but to me, this seems like it has potential to be a little bit more unique, and we'll see how that goes because like you could compare it to other things in terms of like shooting beams out of her arms, but I thought the aesthetic of it was cool. Like you mentioned with the kind of weird zombie realm, like I'm curious what's going on there. So I want to see more of it and see how it evolves and how like does she still have the ability to like embiggen herself and go like semi-giant and stuff like that, or is it just like her shooting powers out of her hands and feet? Because then I can see like I can understand the criticism at that point, but I just got to see more. I will say in terms of the origin of it, I think this maybe has room to be more unique than just like this mist, infected me and I turned into the super. Because that's like so many other characters. Like what that
Yes.
happened to Scarlet Witch, that happened to Captain Marvel, even really. Like, and if you think about it in similar ways like that. But maybe my immediate counter argument to that is that it's kind of similar to Shang-Chi in a way where the powers come from this like wrist thing that's like a family heirloom. So if that's just something that they keep doing for like non-white characters, is like, oh, it's a family heirloom and it gives you a magic power, like that would be if they keep digging, drinking from that well, I think I'll be a bit tired of a story. But for the first episode at least it worked for me.
Especially for me, like the difference with Shang-Chi is like right when you meet him and you get flashbacks of the family and okay, there's something fantastical here. Like there's a guy who has powers, there's a mom that has a whole country, like all this sort of deal, right? Where when we meet her family, which I will say, for me, other than Amon who played Miss Marvel, the stand of this show was the mom. I absolutely loved everything the mom was saying, all her jokes, like all that stuff worked 100% for me. But so far they seem like they're making them very just your average family, maybe average income. Like they don't have this lustrous story. So that's my only worry is, if you introduce, oh yeah, there has been this thing in our family the whole time, you might lose some of that everyday hero that like Peter Parker does have, right? That's where people argue like they don't like Peter with the Stark tech because that took that away. That took the everyday hero away because like, well, he has a suit that can do this. And if they do that with Miss Marvel, I could see the worry of, this whole time she's maybe almost been a superhero or her family's been a superhero. And I'm curious to see which route they go with it.
Yeah, because even the mom hinted at, even just her reaction makes you think that she knows something about this. So
because she's like, yo, that's junk. She took it away fast. Yeah.
So I'm curious to see that perspective as well.
Good hiding job though, just putting some fucking cubby in the attic. Like if this is some like game changing thing you don't want your daughter to have, you're gonna put in some just attic.
Jumanji's probably up there for all we know.
Yeah. What year is it? Yeah. Anyways, where do we want to go next?
Well, I kind of wanted to skip back to the start a little bit and just talk about. So I mentioned that to me this feels like it has a unique vibe. One reason for me is really the cinematography. We can dig more into that a little bit, but also like we don't really get a villain set up in this, and maybe we do it the post credit, but I actually don't know who the villain is supposed to be, like, because I haven't kept that close to the marketing and stuff. But I'm guessing that these people in an office aren't necessarily going to be your big villain, or I don't even know if there will be one necessarily, and maybe you guys already know the answer because you've kept more up to date with it. But I liked that it did like it. That's where it diverged from the MCU formula for me, where we don't have this villain set up necessarily in the first episode.
I was just gonna ask Bubs in the chat if you know the villain. Don't say anything because I don't know it either. Because I know there is some sort of villain. I feel like
there's got to be an antagonist.
Yeah, I feel like it might be someone at the school or something like that. I don't know, and I don't mind that. That's my only one thing I guess I forgot to bring up in overall is that this one. I'm very curious how the 6th episode's going to go again because I feel like we're going to get close to that thing where the finale is going to feel really rushed because I feel like the first episode, it's good setup, but it's very much set up. This episode ends with her just on her bed like, I guess I got superpowers. And that's just it. Like Dylan said, there's no threat. There's no stakes. They introduced the post-credit scene, which I don't really like. I don't like that character from Home, or what is it? No Way Home. He was a little cheesy for me.
Oh, that guy's from...
Yeah, he's the guy who interrogates.
I recognize him. But
he interrogates Peter and MJ and Ned and all that at the beginning. Right. Yeah. So that's where I kind of go, okay, I like the tying. I don't know if I needed that character back but the thing is, he kind of fits the vibe of this show. So I think we will meet some sort of villain. Even like we will, of course, it's the MCU. They're gonna have to, that at one point we will get a show that's not even gonna do that, just be a full-on character study. But I like that so far, but like I said, I do worry about always with these 6 episodes because we've seen it happen almost I'd say with every show other than Loki, we've seen them rush to the finale, and I feel like that could happen again with this. And I was actually surprised that it was 50 minutes as well too. I thought these were going to be smaller episodes, so I like that because I feel like we got a lot of time with Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I could take majority of the season with that, and I think that's also something that, in a good way, makes the show very different from the other like Disney Plus Marvel shows. It is noticeably different for that reason of like you don't just meet Arthur Fleck like at the beginning of the episode putting glass in his shoes,
Arthur Fleck.
Arthur Fleck. What's his last name?
That's Joker.
Yeah,
Arthur
that is
Harrow.
Joker.
Yeah,
Harrow. There we go.
I
It
got
sounded
thrown
so
for
weird when I said it, and then I was waiting for a reaction. No reaction. I'm like, was that right?
I was like, oh, that sounds legit.
I was thrown for such a loop. Like Arthur Fleck. Like we talked about that last night, Kirklin. We were talking about Miss Marvel.
What day is
now.
it? Yeah.
That'd be huge. That's the villain. Fucking Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. They're like, we signed a massive deal. That's the whole. Remember all these talks of Zazov's looking for a new head. It's actually Feige, and he's running both studios. Oh my god. But then Miss Marvel just fucking kills him. Like one hit, it's over for Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
So definitely make the show not kiddie at all if you introduce that character. But yeah, no, I'm very curious as to what like the obvious threat is going to be, and I think if it is just this like government entity trying to like control our powers, I think that is that's a missed opportunity in my eyes. I think they could do something very creative, and because I don't know, I don't even think they have to have like a big obvious like individual threat for her villain. I think it could be something more creative, maybe something tied to her family or something. But again, maybe that's running the lines of turning red a little bit too much.
See, I'm the reverse where actually it'd be generic, but I wouldn't mind if it, like I don't like the government guy, but I wouldn't mind if it's them because then I thought maybe we just get more time with Kamala and the crew. Like if it was a relatively easy villain that she can kind of dispatch and then move forward to the Avengers or whatnot. Because I feel like with it being a kiddier show, you might not have to have like, I don't want the stakes at any point to be that upside down world where she goes into and they're like, oh, if you don't stop it, the whole world's like, if we get any of that shit, no, we've gotten enough of that already in the MCU. So that's where I honestly, I'd be fine if it was just these lame government guys. So I'm on the opposite side of that one.
Yeah, to an extent. And then, in line with that, with not having a villain, but even when there isn't a big villain set up, there's always in that first 10, 15 minutes of any Marvel thing, you got to have some big action set piece, and I like that we can avoid that because that's something that I'm honestly getting super tired of. When I watch like Black Widow and there's some random scene where there's like a car chase and they're flying off in a plane. I'm like, I don't need that. I feel like every single MCU thing has it, and I'm very tired of that feeling like a mandatory part of like the checkbox thing. So I'm glad that we didn't get that. And you do get a couple more high octane moments in this, but it's never really to that same extent. So I felt like that was another way that it differentiated itself in a good way.
Dylan, I have to ask you, big news. Smash Bros. Confirmed to exist in the MCU.
I missed
you know?
it. Where did that happen?
Oh, so at one point after she fails her driving test, it's her and Bruno, and then they have that other friend who won the bet, and she takes the money, and they're like, "Oh, well, we're free this weekend," and they did confirm it by this girl actually trashing Smash because she's like, "Oh, are you want to play Smash Bros. This weekend?" She's like, "Oh, I'm busy that weekend," and she's like, "Oh, it's not about the player, it's about the game," and she's like, "Well, I don't like the game and stuff like that." So, but it sounds like Bruno and Kamal are
Right.
big Smash Bros. Fans. So,
But they didn't pick a Smash. They just picked They just said the series name.
they just said Smash
I gotta
Bros.
know if they're
yeah.
melee players or not. That's what matters.
They
to me.
They said
specifically play the Wii one.
yeah. They said Smash was like Steve Buscemi in high school. Like, you guys playing Smash and stuff like that. But like, who do you, Dylan? I have to ask you as a Smash expert. Who do you think Bruno's main is, and who do you think Kamal's main is? Do you want to sit on that for a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me look at the roster. I'll come back with a good answer here.
Yeah, let's see. Miss Marvel needs to embiggen and fight a giant crocodile. Fuck, I hope we don't get no giant crocodile here. At the end of the day, if we got as long as it's not a world-ending problem, I'm fine. I don't really care. Maybe it's Loki the crocodile, right? Because he's in there and everything. But
could be.
yeah, what do you feel in Kirkland about the school life we get set up? That we kind of talked about this a little bit with the animations, but she's very much in her head. She's daydreaming a lot, thinking about other things other than school. Even though she's still a smart kid, other than school, we get that scene with the teacher. She's not like this is where I kind of fell in love with the character. When she walked that hallway, her reactions to different people trying to get her book, waving, like being awkward, but not like Tobey Maguire awkward 2002, like a different, like kind of updated version of that. So she's not like a bullied kid, but she's definitely not a popular kid or anything like that. She's at that, kind of middle point. So what do you think about some of her school life and knowing that she's kind of just still figured it all out? She's just more excited about Avengers than she is her life kind of as of right now.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked her little crew that we got introduced to. It seems like they're putting some emphasis on this fact of she's just like fantasizing, like they brought up multiple times. She's just living in these fantasy worlds, always fantasizing, and like again, I could see that translating over. She's like just picturing herself to be a superhero, and then now she's actually going to be becoming a superhero. So then she just realizes the hero that she's been this whole time. There's this big resolution thing that happens near the end of the season. But like just like the hierarchy of where she lies and the the high school. She's in high school, right? Like what's her age supposed to be?
I think she's
You
in high
know?
school, yeah.
Yeah. Like I think it's fun, and again, like a lot of similarities I find to Turning Red while watching the show. But again, I love that movie, so it's not a negative by any means. But yeah, I'm happy with especially like some of the popular kids that they introduced, like that Zoe character that had 200,000 followers. It was just, it's funny to see those stereotypical type characters. And the way
Doesn't
that
she
they're
say
portrayed.
50,000 actually? She's like 50,000 actually. Like Mrs.
Ooh,
Kamala
okay,
kind of
maybe.
brings
Maybe
her
she
down.
bought
I heard
some, like, bots or
200,000.
something.
Yeah, which makes sense. She might be a little jealous because Kamal's channeled the Slop Productions needs a little love. Like we're not slinging hundreds of views here on GeekVerse, but she had a couple just 2 viewers, so it's tough there. But
She had some good production value though.
Yeah,
Like,
she did.
I was pretty
True.
impressed.
I want to know that editing program is snipe it
Yeah.
up, like give me that. But
Makes it look easy.
yeah. So Dylan, do you have an answer for who you think any of
I-
the mains would be?
Yeah, I do. I feel like Bruno plays like Rob, or like Mega Man, like kind of like a
Oh, Mega Man's a
nerdy
good one. Yeah.
Mm.
kind of character like that. And I feel like Kamala plays like actually like like villainous characters, but ones that are very goofy, like Wario or like a
Mhm.
Bowser Jr., something like that.
Mhm.
That's the kind of vibe I get. I think.
I think you
Like a
hit
trickster,
the nail on the
trickster
head.
sort of.
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Maybe like
Nailed
Young
it.
Link as well, something like that.
Oh yeah, Youngling, that's a good one with the evil skin though, like the dark, like the
Sure.
eyes and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because it hits the villainous side. But
Yeah.
yeah, Dylan, what do you think about her school life and some of her like the collection of friends and etc. Kind of just a setup of what's going on
Yeah.
with her.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how that evolves throughout the show and how much screen time is her at school.
Mhm.
I did like the scene with I don't know if he was the principal or if he was like the guidance counselor kind of guy, but I thought that was funny. I liked their conversation and talking about her like drifting off and she'd like already done it. She can't even stand 20 seconds talking to this guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Travis, you mentioned that just her acting chops, and I feel like this was a sequence that I enjoyed seeing. Is just her kind of being on the outs, kind of being rejected by just the other people, and just like the little ways she was reacting to that. It wasn't like there was some big moment where like she gets hit in the hallway and drops her binder, and then
Yes.
it's nothing like that. But I liked those scenes, but I don't know. Like, I guess there wasn't any other characters at the school necessarily that I need to see again. Like that guidance counselor is a funny for a scene, but I don't know if I need to hear his weekly update on how Kamala's doing. And there wasn't really any other characters that got me too interested. I mean, they highlighted that one girl who ends up being at the Avengers Con and does the cosplay as well. So I feel like she's maybe a character that's going to come back in some way. And then I guess we see the other friend as well. I don't remember what her name was, but kind of like the third friend of the group.
Yeah,
I
she's
guess.
the one that was trashing on Smash, so you won't like her.
Right.
That's not the character you want to be with, you know.
Yeah.
I do gotta. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead. You go ahead.
I think that's pretty much all I was going to say. Go ahead.
I just got to bring this up because when I watched it again, I'm like, oh, I got to put this in my notes, and I don't think I did put it in my notes. So I think that obviously we're in the MCU, right? But I still think there's like they try and keep it in a realm of like believability, and I feel like this show had a specific tone, and it was very realistic. We're in a real world where this character might get powers, right? I'm so torn because I laughed out loud and I really enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it on a laughing sense, but I not enjoy it from a real world story standpoint of that friend or that girl who's like the popular girl who she meets later on the Captain Marvel convention. When all shit starts to go down, all these things are falling apart and yet and there is a huge replica, a massive replica of Thor's hammer, and it comes down and hits her. Now it doesn't just hit her, she goes, oh, it hits her, brings her all the way to the roof, and then goes back to the other roof. She's still holding on. That's some of the most like scary movie parody shit I've ever seen. And that's where it's like I laughed, but not in a good way. I thought whoever had that idea, it cut that out. Like that took me right out of the episode. Like this, everything's felt so believable. Like so like like we just talked about how it doesn't feel like she's in that cheesy Tobey Maguire high school. Like this feels like something in the 2000s era. So I thought that was a really weird choice to have her get hit by this hammer and ride it for a little bit. Strange for me.
I totally see where you're coming from. I guess to me that whole scene just was trying to feel larger than life in a way, and like you could pass it off as like something with her powers were like reacting with it, but to me it worked. I will say like that hammer hitting her, like I was watching with Muds and her reaction was if that girl just exploded like that. And it really did look like the first shot is fucking brutal, and then you see her, she's just like floating there all normal. But also the Ant-Man head, like how that is the most rolly object I've ever seen in my life. It kept going forever. It was crazy. It was like the fucking trees in Moon Knight premiere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had the exact same reaction to Travis. Honestly, I was shocked that it even happened. I'm like, did they just kill off this character right here? And then when it just keeps swinging, then she comes back down, and yeah, it felt like a like a parody moment where it was so ridiculous, and then she ended up saving her. But I just laughed how she initially was just like, get out of the way, and it's like this is her hero moment to like finally like save someone, and she just jumps out of the way as this poor girl just gets fucking sent by Thor's hammer there. But yeah, it was a choice. It was a choice for sure. I probably wouldn't have thrown that in there, but I mean, it got me laughing.
Yeah, that's all that matters, right? They've got you laughing, did its job. So
I have a question. Since
Yeah.
we're talking a little bit about that sequence at Avengers Con. Did you guys think it was this just me? Did you think it was really weird that someone was cosplaying as Gamora? It's like, does anyone in the world know who Gamora is, right? Like, I get it. She was at the battle in Endgame, but then she, presumably, as far as we know, just pieces out, right? She's not at Tony Stark's funeral. And, like, I don't know. There's no, like, cameras there. So how do people know who Gamora is?
I'm gonna answer that after this next ad break. So we're back. I like honestly this didn't happen because we know like the rights. But when I see characters like Gamora and even some of the people from like Wakanda, I go, it feels strange that there's no Spider-Man stuff here, but these characters, like I even found Drax strange. Like a Drax, like, and that's where even then too, like I was trying to think about this, and it's just like it's not game breaking, but so when we're in Kamala's room and she's getting ready for this event, and there is a photo of Brie Larson's Captain Marvel above her mirror, but it clearly just looks like a promotional material for the Captain Marvel movie. And for because I'm trying to track it, right? Of like, okay, when she got her powers back and it was the 90s, right? She got her powers, then she went up to space. She wasn't now, I guarantee you, they're going to have some fucking line, they'll fill in it. But as of right now, for our continuity, she went up to space, did her stuff. She was an Avenger. She wasn't around. People don't really know what she looks like. And then next time she was on Earth, she had the short hair. So when was she posing around for this? Now you could say, oh, well, like, it's an artist rendition. Yeah, I know. That's what I have to do. But I think it is kind of weird of like the Avengers. Even the same thing of like I guess I kind of get it. And I love the joke with the parents of like, oh, you know, you're going to go as Little Hulk and Big Hulk.
Yeah.
That was great. And like, you got to go. And then that's where it felt Lizzie McGuire, where she's like, oh, you're humiliating me. And she's embarrassed. But even the entrance, I get it that he's a main Avenger, but there's been multiple accounts where Hulk has lost it and killed innocent people. But your entrance in Avengers Con is just like a Hulk being like, ah, like I'm fine with him being in the movies on the team because we know his story. We know he can't control it. But as somebody, if my husband, my brother, my wife got trampled by fucking Hulk, but there is a Hulk huge statue you can just walk in and like this, and the other thing is weird, like I'd have to look at all these heroes. We still don't know what happened to the Sokovia Accords, right? So they're like celebrating like Ant-Man. Well, he was a criminal. He broke the Accords. So like, what are we
He's got his
doing
own
here?
podcast now.
yeah. So it's because I watched it the second time. It's just podcast interviews. Kirklin just interviews.
Oh,
He doesn't
okay.
have his own
There you go.
podcast. Yeah, because I was like, this is a weird addition. Like Scott Lang is
Yeah.
now doing podcasts on the side.
Well,
But
I love the name of it, which is my reference that you didn't actually introduce our names at the start of this podcast, but my
Oh, I
nickname was
didn't,
gonna be,
shit.
my nickname was gonna be Big Me, Little Me, which I just love the name of. Yeah, I don't think it was his podcast, but at least maybe the episode or series that he
Yeah.
was featured in. Thought that name was great.
so like it works. It's fourth wall breaking where it works for us, but then it doesn't necessarily all the way work for the show. Because yeah, I think they should have just like you're not complaint, but bring up they should have just kept it to the core Avengers. And then, like I said, it starts to bring up some things like, yeah, these people have done a few things, and even then people have said before too, there's probably accounting, but it's just like they just know exactly what happened during that endgame battle. You know, it's like word for word. Like I guess maybe that's what Scott Lang. I guess Scott Lang probably explained on his podcast, right? That's how they can headcanon it. Is oh yeah, he told the whole story on that podcast. That's what everyone knows. Because even like in Doctor Strange, when that guy sits beside me, he's like, oh, you made the wrong fucking choice, buddy. It's like, how did he know he gave the stone to Thanos? But Scott Lang, that's the answer for it all. He did a podcast and let it fly, you know? So
Just
Yeah.
telling everything, all the secrets.
on the game says same with America's ass joke as Cat was completely done when that happened. What I missed that. When did they make America's ass joke?
There was like I don't know if it was a picture of a comic book. I think it was just like a poster that you would buy at a convention. And I forget what the text on it was, but it was like Cap like looking at his ass. It was very much like an animated, like it almost looked like a Funko Pop kind of thing, like looking
Yeah.
at his ass, and it was like a big juicy ass. Like it was definitely a reference to that.
Mhm.
But there was even stuff that said like, I can do this all day, which maybe he said that in the public eye, but like I don't know.
He
do people
definitely
know?
did. I bet at one
Okay.
point. Now on the game says he was a
He
guest
does
on the
say it a
American
lot,
Life
so I wouldn't be shocked if he
parody
said
podcast.
it.
But here's my bring up again where the America's ass joke works. You know why? Because who was a guest on that? Scott Lang. Scott Lang's the one that invented America's ass. He said that in the time
Yep.
trial because he said that's America's ass. So it all goes back to Scott Lang. He's told this entire story to everybody.
It's all
you know?
he can just make it like revisionist history. He can just tell his story, and that's why he's such a big deal, I guess.
Yeah.
And why
oh,
he's like
shit.
he has as much merch as Hulk and all of them.
Remember?
He's a
Rem-
millionaire now.
But
No,
wait,
but-
does
Next time we
Ant-Man
see
know
him.
Gamora? Because that's to me, all of this is fine. Like I think it's all believable. The one that doesn't make sense to me is Gamora.
They definitely met in the endgame battle, I bet, at some point. You know, it was like a rubbing
Is there
shoulders and
time
everything
for
like
them
that.
to like, he's giant. He's running
there-
around as a giant. When's he talking to Gamora?
There was time for Peter Quill and Gamora to like hug and her to nut shot him. So they definitely had time to be. There was time. There's a Helm's Deep like battle going on, and there's times for Peter and Tony to fucking hug. And you're like, guys, not right now. Like I know you're happy, but I will say is also to more of this theory. Two things. One, Scott Lang probably needs the money because he's always down and out, right? But two, I'm running with this. Remember in Hawkeye, the musical Avengers, Ant-Man's there, and Clint says. That guy wasn't even there. So what if he's gone back and really retold this whole story that he's
I
been
love
here
it.
the whole time, Scott? And that's like such a Scott Lang move. Like he maybe did like even accidentally like filled
Yeah.
himself in the story and didn't mean to. So now I know Scott Lang. He told them all that this is now we know because even the haircut they knew what Captain Marvel's haircut looked. It's all Scott. It's all Scott.
It all comes back to Scott. I like that theory. just yeah, getting back to the whole Avengers Con thing. I think for me it was just so fun to like have just all these different versions of characters and people cosplaying them, and then you have like Cap's like theme song when he was doing like his promotional tour thing. Like just the whole mix up of it was just really fun for me. But you guys brought up a lot of good questions in regards to just which ones are actually heroes in the public's eyes, and how much do they actually know of those characters? Because I definitely thought the same thing. Like when we were in Kamala's bedroom, and it was just like a Brie Larson like promotional photo. I'm like, I think I've seen that like leading up to Captain Marvel, but it worked for me. It was just really fun to just see all the people cosplaying up as the characters.
And I guess we should address that they do and can't, like we had known this before, but they do just like reference and really set stone again that she's off planet, she's doing something, because she even says like, oh, the public doesn't know where she is, but then Miss Marvel like defends her right away, like, oh, but she's probably doing good stuff or she needs a break and da 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 da. And I will say I loved that whole animation at the beginning, like the paper mache retelling of Avengers stuff, like that one moment where they have the one with Hulk and when like it puts the paper open, it's like little intestines and guts, like he's ripping someone open. I really thought that was like a cute, fun, clever opening. I like the rest of like the imaginary stuff fine enough throughout the show, but that one I really, really dug of that retelling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
The one that I really enjoyed is when they were just biking around town and just like on the brick walls and all this stuff. There's kind of all those animations going off. Like to me, that just fits the character so well. Who just kind of has her head in the clouds, always thinking about this stuff. And I just loved the animation of it. I thought it was really fun. And then I mean, she also does like you kind of get her animated telling of the plan on the and it kind of all comes down back to on the chalkboard, and then it's kind of some of it is animated. Like I really like those touches, and I hope to see more of that throughout the show. Because to me, it wasn't like overbearing in any way. Like obviously that one with the paper cutouts was, I mean, it was like kind of like the intro, so it makes sense to have it focus on that. But everything else is just in the background, just like little details or used as transitions. So I thought it was really well and kept the pacing pretty good as well.
I wonder what they do. It's the same way we always talk about with Deadpool. It's like, oh, does he fourth wall break in the future? I wonder what they do when she starts to be in team ups. Like, does that just all go away then? Like, or do we get ever perspective shots of her seeing that type of stuff?
She's like seeing all this stuff. Moon Knight is tripping out. Like
Deadpool's talking to himself.
Everyone's having their issues like in their own world.
And
not
Sam's like,
communicating at all.
yeah. And Sam Wilson's like, I wonder if Steve had to go through this shit when he was leading the Avengers. Like we thought Tony was bad. What do you guys think about Bruno? Because I feel like not that I dislike him or anything. I'm wondering where they're gonna go. I feel like they're hinting at the type of kind of romantic, like he's not, I won't say friend zone, but there's lots of hints and whatnot. I will say, like, if it's not, like, this guy is like, he's going up way above and beyond. He's doing everything for this girl. I will say very questionable, at least I would say, Kamala, of letting him have all those cameras in the house after he he installed this Help Zuzu program, but I didn't know that it also included cameras around the entire home, which I thought was a little creepy. Yeah, she still might not know. I guess she did after, but like I thought that was a little strange to be happening in 2022 here, but I like the character enough so far, and I'm interested to see like if he becomes an actual romantic lead. I guess I wasn't watching this and thinking that in trailers we'd be having her have like a romantic lead or anything.
I guess to speculate on the camera thing, because he was also talking with her dad and showing him camera stuff. Like, was he just setting up security cameras for the house? Like,
yeah,
the dad wanted that, and then he just tapped into them essentially.
Okay, I hope that makes me feel better then, because I just felt really weird about him having just like Kamala's
You're
home
right. Like, yeah,
as an app.
That is pretty weird for him to do.
Yeah,
we don't trust Bruno.
Yeah, we don't trust Bruno.
Yeah, I think he's all right. I don't know. I was having some thoughts like during the episode of like maybe there's gonna be something like with him going forward. Maybe I don't know that makes him into a more important character than just like a love interest for Kamala.
Guy in the chair.
Yeah, like something like a half step above that. I don't want to just be that guy in the chair.
So he's gonna be better than Ned.
Guy in the chair.
Is what you're
he
saying.
could be. Yeah,
Higher
until
tier.
Ned becomes hobgoblins.
Shit, yeah. He is magical
No,
now.
he's
so.
gonna be the next Sorcerer Supreme, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think he's good enough. But yeah,
Good enough.
It was some interesting stuff with the Zuzu tech.
Man, I've been listening to Geek First for years. I'm finally on the MCU show. I can't wait to hear what they say.
Yeah.
Kirklin Betts, I think he's good enough.
Good enough. I will say, he like went out of his way to make these like special gloves for Kamala, and she didn't give a fuck about those
No.
gloves. She's forgot them in the bathroom. Like, these are fucking for losers. I'm not taking these.
And that's my only worry is I don't want that. I don't want the friend zone route of like he's like, I just do so much for you. You don't appreciate me. Like that's my only concern when you brought up those gloves. And I feel like there's a few little instances of that. Like there's a moment when they were sitting on the roof and it looked like there was a motion like, oh, they were both thinking about kissing each other. So it's like, okay, maybe she is into it. But other than that, there's times where it's like maybe she doesn't fully understand that he's into that. Now you can play it two ways of when she finds out, she's like, oh, I do like you too. Or it's like, oh no, I don't look at you that way. I just hope we don't get some shitty like Ron, Hermione, Harry, like Goblet of Fire drama happening in this show. You know, like I don't like just because I've seen it so much in my life, I don't want that here. I'd rather just focus on Kamala and her family and like the journey of becoming this superhero and becoming maybe more in the public. But again, they've already introduced a lot of very teeny topics, so I could see that. I could see it happening, something to that equivalent.
Yeah, something. Another observation I had that made me think that we will get some other things with the character Bruno is like when he went home, it didn't seem like he really like had like a family or anything like that. Like did you see his parents or anything like that? Like it seemed like he just went home and that's just where he lives by himself. I didn't notice
fucking dead. He's killed them all. He's like, yeah, you're next, Kamala.
with the Zuzu tech that you took him out.
Yeah, it's like it's like an Ultron hybrid where it's like I found this program thanks to Scott Lane's podcast.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. But yeah, no, I found that a little interesting. Like it just seemed like they showed an emphasis of him just looking sad by himself in his room. So I'm curious if that leads to anything. But yeah, as of right now, I think he's fine.
I think I'm on the same page as you guys. Like he's good enough for now. We'll see where it goes. I was getting
Fuck, another
some,
one said good enough.
I mean, I like him, but I just want to see where the story evolves to. Because
You're not tuning
right,
in to see Bruno. You know, like that's yeah.
You're right. It could go down a path that is just not what I want to see on screen. I was getting some like Peter Parker vibes from him. Not that I'm trying to say that they're recasting Peter Parker or anything, but like his general aesthetic, the fact that he was like hacking all this gear. Like Peter Parker also is a big like fanboy too, not in the same way necessarily, but still like, he's freaking out when he meets all these characters for the first time. So he had a little bit of those vibes. So I don't know if that was intentional or whatnot, but I don't know. I think he's fun. I'm curious to see where they go with him.
Yeah, we'll see. We got a couple more weeks now. I want to adjust all the games says early days, but shaping up to be the best rated MCU Phase 4 project with critics audiences. And I think the reason is because like even myself feel like doesn't love it. There's nothing in here I would like fail and say like, oh, this like the most egregious thing to me was the hammer, and I can like look past that. But like I think that's why, because it's just baseline, just a solid good show, and kind of varying degrees of how much you like it. It makes sense that's going to be one of your higher rated MCU projects right now. Again, let's see where the finale goes, because you could get a bad villain, you get this love thing we're talking about. Like, there's a lot of routes you could go down. So, let me pull my notes. Anything else you guys want to talk about specifically?
I'll go back
mine.
to the cinematography. I want to show it a couple more moments of that. Just in general, I think the camera work here was great, and I hope that, because I know sometimes on the MCU shows like they switch around people working on individual episodes on specific things. So I hope that whoever was behind the camera on this episode is doing more, or if not all the episodes. There's just a lot of little fun things. We talked about the animations, but to me also that scene when they're texting each other, just updating each other, and you're just getting these different shots of them doing stuff, and like, the open sign is turned into like her text message that she sent to him. Like little things like that. Really clever, really cool. The other one as well, speaking of the camera setup in the house, I love that shot when they check her phone to see where her family is at. And so it like goes into that camera in their house, and then it zooms in and you see what her parents are up to, and then it keeps zooming in, and then you see her kind of less than happy reaction in the family picture, and then that zooms right back into her taking back the Avengers.
Yeah,
like,
that was good.
There's a ton of that in this episode. A lot of really clever stuff that's really playful and fun, but once again, like keeps that pacing moving. Just feels like a really dynamic show. So really big shout out to the people behind the cameras on this one. I hope that keeps up in the episodes to come.
Now, I suppose you may know more. I'm just looking on the spot, so obviously I'm not going to do a deep dive on air. But I knew that they at least did some of them. I don't know all of them, but the guys that did this, Ali El Arabi and Bile Faleh, I think is how you say your names, but I'm probably butchering them. They did Bad Boys for Life, but they also directed either a few episodes of this or a majority of the episodes of this. But they also directed the Batgirl movie happening for Warner Brothers and stuff like that. Which is, if you think about that, that's kind of a good fit, especially the era they're tackling Batgirl. It's called the Burnside era. So if you think about this as like something you could see is like Batgirl's very equivalent, right? She's a young hero who's going to be trying to live up to certain heroes like a Batman and stuff. So I think it's kind of fun seeing this because you kind of get a vibe of what Batgirl could be like. Like one of the most popular images of Burnside is Batgirl with her suit on with her cell phone. So when you're talking about describing the cell phone, it's like we could see that in Batgirl and stuff like that. So, maybe another project you might be looking forward in the DC world, Dylan, if these guys are, I know they for sure directed one episode. I know they've directed, they directed the first, so there you go. They directed this episode. So, and these guys that directed the first episode directed the last one, says all the game, and they also directed Batgirl, which comes out sometime in the future. So,
And this is a 6-episoder too, right?
yeah, 6 episodes, yeah.
Okay.
The classic Feige. But I got, She-Hulk's coming up. That's 9, but that's because they're only half an hour. But
Well, hopefully that was part of the vision of the show. Then was getting a little more playful with the camera work, and that's consistent throughout, even if it's not necessarily the same people holding the cameras.
yeah. The only two things I have to show, like I touched on a bit, I like all the family dynamic. I like that the brother's kind of like the breadwinner and they look up to him. I like the dynamic with the dad, the mom. I love that moment when they're talking about the party and she's like, or the dad's like, oh, we trust you. And the mom's like, oh, I don't trust you. And she's like, no, she's kidding. Like, she does trust you. I don't trust you at all. Like, she's just so serious, but in like a mom way, not in a way where you're like, oh, she just dislikes her daughter. She's just like, she feels like she's actually her daughter's kind of biggest champion. She keeps telling her, like, get your life in order. Now, obviously, that's going to go a different route, but she just wants her to succeed and doesn't want her to get caught up in maybe parties and the fantasy world and stuff. So all the family dynamic, I'm really loving. I love that she goes to the brother and like, if you pitch it, maybe they'll like it. And that does work, even though the amendum is she has to go with her dad dressed as the Hulk, which is probably worse than not going because obviously he was, it's good. I'm a dad. You want to be excited, but he was way too excited for, you're going to embarrass the shit out of this girl. Don't do this. So I'm liking everything about the family dynamic so far.
Absolutely. Yes. One thing I forgot to mention with like in regards to the visuals, I loved when she had like her plan of how she was going to escape to the Avengers Con, and then it kept showing like what time would be like perfect for them to like, or for her to leave, and then it's like my family will just be praising me, and then when it goes to like pardon me, the reality of like her actually executing the mission, it's just like the times kept being like way later than it was planned.
Behind,
yeah,
like 2 hours behind.
I thought that was so fun, and like how many times, I mean, like you could just picture like you think you have this perfect schedule of how it's gonna go, and then obviously just things happen, then you get delayed, and that was really really fun for me. I love the whole situation of her like escaping her house to go to Avengers Con, and then getting back home, and then her mom's just like waiting in the room. I thought all of that was really good.
Oh, I love that line when she brings up, I can't remember who she's bringing up, if it's her sister or her, like her auntie, like she brought up someone's particular of like, you're being like this person as an example, right? And then Miss Marvel, I keep calling her, but like Kamal's like, I knew you were going to say that. And then the mom says, so you knew you were going to disappoint me. You knew you were going to go against me. And that was like, that was some really good stuff there. One by the actress, but I just like that line of like, Miss Kamala tries to throw it in her face, like, oh, I know you use that against me, but it's like, if you did that, you just kind of didn't talk to her, went against word. Now, of course, we've seen that the mom was no matter what, it was a no-go. It's either go with your dad or not all, but I like that the mom had that kind of ready in the chamber and everything, and and poor Kamala lost her bike too, that, what a jerk bus driver, like wouldn't even, like, just slow down a little bit, but that bike's gone.
I know. I was gonna say like that. I loved that particular part of that sequence that you mentioned, Kirklin, where like in her fantasy they jump off the bridge and land on the bus. And then it like, cuts to them, and they're like just hobbling down the stairs,
walking it down.
And then I thought that was Bruno's bike at first because he like brings the bikes around. So I was like, pretty fucked up of her to just like to leave his bike. I know it wasn't her fault completely, but still like. That would really suck, but it was her bike, so whatever. She can deal with those consequences. And now she can probably like fly or jump really far, so who cares about the bike? But
yeah,
still.
like when they got to that bridge, I was like, are they actually gonna jump? Like, because because it's the same shot. So it's like What's gonna
He's like, I
happen
already
here?
jumped from a window today. I don't need to jump
Yeah.
from a bridge today.
And then they ran down and they just made it. But yeah. And then my last note is I liked when they were talking about the opening when she has her YouTube videos, which I don't think they did, but they should have had these YouTube videos ready to go on the Marvel YouTube page,
That
like
would've been
in
fun.
character. I think that would have been cool, like 2-minute
yeah.
ones. Because I really want to know when she says, like, my theory of why I think Thor's a gamer. Now, it's not a theory because it's confirmed. What was he doing in the Endgame time? You know, remember he was fighting Noob Master 69 and all this stuff. And I think it would be fun if,
Do you
like,
think that's why her theory is? Because there's
yes.
like video evidence of like him talking or something like that?
Or like his voice, like some Twitch
yeah.
streamer caught his voice and stuff because people are still playing Fortnite in the Endgame era 5 years later.
Right.
So that still means in 2 years. Well, you know, people are still playing. It's funny everyone
years,
talked
yeah.
about that joke, like, oh, they're playing Fortnite in 2024, but it's like we're only 2 years away and people still might be playing
Dude,
Fortnite.
S-Bubs post a new Fortnite content every day. on the Geek
Yeah.
Discord, so that game's popping still.
But like, so I wanted to see that video of how she got there, and plus I still want the whole full circle where New Master 69 is Deadpool. So if we have Miss Marvel who figure out Thor's a gamer and we figure out that New Master is Deadpool,
Wow.
complete, just je ne sais quoi. You know, that's the cinematic universe right there. So
That's crazy. My last note was just piggybacking on something that I think Kirklin said in way back in the non-spoiler era, but the music I thought was fantastic. It kind of has these hip hop tones to it that's added to this Indian music in a like really cool way. They kind of fade between the two, and I mean even just in general, there's just a lot of what I presume is Indian music. Maybe it's Pakistani or something else. I'm not exactly sure, but obviously fitting for the characters in the world and all that. So I liked that, and then I like the way they mixed that with their kind of own score and stuff like that too, for more actiony sequences and stuff like that. And once again, like they always do that, you know, with Doctor Strange, how they'll throw in the sitars or whatever those instruments are, like those little theme moments. And I feel like we'll probably get elements of that when we see her and other stuff. And I'm really excited to see how they do that by just adding little notes here, little progressions, things like that. Because I think this first episode sets you off to a good start with how the music's going to be for the rest of this thing.
I hope so. You got to keep that going in those other movies, you know, because it just brings some characterization. Just I'm kind of
Yeah,
like
I feel
mini
like not enough
iconic.
characters have that used. Like I remember Black Panther, they did it a lot too, is
Yeah.
throwing in those little sounds and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they just get more and more of that. It's great.
Yeah, hopefully because they did that like a little strange. Like you heard WandaVision scene like a little bit, like the theme, but then obviously got really dark. So hopefully they do a bit more of that. S-Bub's confirming something that's breaking my heart. We already know that Noob Master's Aaron from the Apple Store. It was confirmed in an Xbox ad. Fuck Xbox. So Aaron
That's
from
not
the
canon.
yeah, it's not canon.
That's
But
not
Aaron
my
from the
canon.
Apple Store is from Winter Soldier and stuff. So oh yeah, you know they can retcon that. They can get rid of that. But yeah. Anything else, Kirkland? You got any points, or you hit all yours?
Yeah, I thought the end credits looked gorgeous in this show.
Oh, yeah.
That, again, like what Dylan was mentioning with the music, like that obviously was in the end credits, and it looked really good. It was one of those I was happy to kind of just sit through and just watch them, and yeah, they always have really nice looking just visuals when it comes to those end credit scenes in these shows.
Even Gwen said that. She's like, I want to watch this before bed. It's like, okay, we'll watch the credits. We had the mid credit scene anyways. But also though, it's funny that did you see the opening, Kirkland, of like the Miss Marvel like changing all the different fonts and everything like that after she hits the car? It looked like identical to Everything Everywhere All at Once, like the way it's just flipping through all these different styles. Yeah, and I was like, okay,
absolutely.
this is definitely like again, they made this probably before the movie came out, so they didn't steal, but it was just like looked like a carbon copy of it, and very cool. I like that.
I definitely had that thought in that scene, and then again, like with the turning red similarities, it's like, oh my gosh, the show is just. It seems like it's pulling from so many different things.
They're like, what was hot in Asian cinema this year? Let's pull from all these things, you know. So. Well, we did it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back next week. Fresh off the boat, Taylor Fuel will be joining us. He'll be back from Nanaimo, and we'll get his thoughts on Obi-Wan last week. We'll also get his thoughts here, and we'll be back for, as usual, the next 6 weeks talking Miss Marvel content. Let us know in the Discord, the Twitter, the YouTube, anywhere you can comment what you thought about this, and promise when you hear from us next, it'll not be boring.